The Ile Notre Dame at Montreal, seen for the 5th time of the Canadian Grand Prix on the newly named 2.74-mile Gilles Villeneuve circuit, dedicated to Canada's great driver hero who died after his tragic crash at the Belgian Grand Prix meeting. The Canadian race had been brought forward 4 months this year, and after 2 days' practice, Didier Pironi had put his turbocharged Ferrari onto pole position on the starting grid and dedicated his achievement to his late teammate Gilles. And it was Pironi who was to be the focal point of one of the worst start line multiple crashes in the history of Grand Prix racing. As you look at the grid, on the left, Pironi in the scarlet Ferrari. To the right, Arnoux's yellow Renault, and lined up behind them, the 24 other qualifiers. But as the lights flashed to green, Pironi stalled his engine. Those at the front of the grid swerved out of trouble, but at the back, the unsighted drivers hit each other, and Paletti made massive contact with the Ferrari. Out went Bercel, Salazar, Lees, and Pironi and Paletti, of course, were stationary. Pironi immediately leapt out of his car. You see him to the right. He dashed across, the race was stopped, but unknown to anybody, as Pironi struggled to get the wreckage away from the stricken Paletti, petrol was pouring from the ruptured tank of the Osella underneath the car. Paletti had severe internal injuries and broken legs. Meantime, Pironi, having directed the proceedings, stepped back, the marshal stepped forward, and then suddenly the fire ignited. The petrol, and there's 45 gallons of it there, went up with Paletti still strapped in the car. But Paletti was not to suffer from this debacle. With the flames beating around him, it was his internal injuries and the fractures that were the trouble, because the marshals were commendably directing their fire extinguishers the right way, with Pironi doubling forward to help the marshal, indeed to push him into position and force the fire extinguisher fluid and powder downwards to keep the flames away from Paletti, who was unconscious. They succeeded in doing it, and Paletti, I say again, was not at all affected by the fire. But it took a great deal of work and time to get that fire put out. A lot of fire extinguishers, a lot of effort, and all the time Paletti under severe shock. But in time, thanks no doubt to everything that Pironi did and all the others, the fire was put out, and then came the problem of extracting Paletti from the car. He had to be cut out, but it was done. But now let us look at a replay. Paletti at the back with the arrow, 11 cars behind Pironi's Ferrari. When the lights went to green, out from behind the Ferrari came Alain Prost, alongside his teammate on the front row of the grid, René Arnoux. Giacomelli avoided Pironi, so did Rosberg and De Cesaris, Lauda and Daly. But meantime, Raoul Bercel in the march was bearing down on the Ferrari, and he hit the scarlet car with a terrific thwack, with Pironi still in it. There he goes, and then Paletti made head-on contact at nearly 100 miles an hour. With Paletti out of the shattered car, and you can see how bad it was, he was then helicoptered to hospital, where the surgeons fought for his life, tragically to fail. Riccardo Paletti was 23 years old. He came from Milan, and this was only to be his second Grand Prix. He had yet to make his name, but he will be sadly missed. Riccardo Paletti.